It's February of 2018 and our whole class has just been given free time, at which point this comes up to me and asks if he can use my coloured pencils. Now I already had a prejudice against him because he hung out with some kids that I didn't like. He knocked around with more people than I did. He had more friends than me. So in my mind, I'm thinking, this, I don't want to give him my pencils, they're my good coloured pencils. But I politely say yes, I let him use them, and I'm actually happy I did, because that whole period was what kicked off what was to be an absolutely crazy next 6 years.
I was so nervous to ask him for his pencils because I was like, I'm the new kid, like I didn't know anybody. But at this point I was starting to settle in, I was a few weeks in. So I was getting more comfortable. I asked him for his pencils anyway, and he sort of, I don't think he knows this, but he sort of gave me a bit of a glare. And I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't the right decision to ask. And then he was like, yeah, for sure. And he let me borrow them, and ever since then, I've been stuck with the...
All right, so from this point, he starts hanging around me and my friend group. We hang out with these two other lads at the time who, you know, weren't too good. We always get up to mischief with them. But as the months went on, we started stirring Crocker up, and he would always be the main target of our, I guess you'd call it, you know, sort of slight bullying. We'd always muck around with him, and we just always pick on him, right? So he was victim to that over the next couple months. And I remember one day we went on this school excursion to this like wildlife park thing. You know, we did all this like Aboriginal art and that sort of thing. And as we're doing paintings in this room, right, I accidentally bump his slightly. It gets like the slightest little line in it, right? And he goes, "Are you serious? You just my painting." And we remember these words to this day, bro. I was like, "Don't be a sook." And he follows this by grabbing his whole hand and fucking like I only left a little line in his. He gets his whole hand and my entire painting up, the entire thing. And I said, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Don't be a sook." So for the rest of the day, my boys and I, who were also his boys, kept saying to him, "Don't be a sook, don't be a sook." And we kept stirring him up. And he starts crying in front of the entire class, including the girl who he had a crush on at the time. And bro, this was peak experience, but at the time, I can only imagine how embarrassed this felt. So what was going through your mind, excuse me, on that day?
I can just remember crying, my eyes out. I was uncontrollably crying. And then the Aboriginal woman that was hosting the thing, she was like, come on. If you don't make what were we making?
The bread stuff, you know, the naan bread or whatever it was.
It was Johnny cakes.
Yeah, Johnny cakes, that was it.
We were cooking Johnny cakes, and I said to her, "Look, I don't want to do it anymore." And she came up to me and she was like, "Look, I'll understand if you don't want to do it, but I'll feel very disrespected if you don't." So here I am with fucking tears running down my face, bawling my eyes out, making this fucking Johnny cake. And then I ate a little bit of it, and once I got home, I cried my eyes out as well. I was like, "Wow, I'm getting bullied. I just can't do it." And I don't know if I went to school the next day because of it either. Honestly, I was a bit of a bitch back then.
From this point, Crocker goes back to hanging out with his mates who I said at the start of the video I didn't like, and I keep hanging out with my boys. But it gets to around, I want to say, October, and this girl in my class makes up a massive rumour. You know, there's like a big talk, a big discussion with my teacher in the class. She makes up this rumour, and as a result, both of my boys don't want to be friends with me anymore. So I go home crying to my dad, crying to my older brother, who was like, I want to say 15, 16 at the time. He messages Crocker, because obviously I've just told my older brother I have no friends, he's looking out for me, and asks Crocker if he can, you know, put the stuff in the past and be friends with me, hang out with me at school. And this was pretty much where we became inseparable. From that point, any experience I have, virtually Crocker has as well. What actually did he say to you? Because I never saw the message. I thought he messaged you, I had a feeling, but I only knew he did because you told me years later.
Honestly, I don't even know what he said. I can just remember that he said that you were upset and you feel like you've got no friends. And pretty much asking if I could hang out with you again, or something like that, something along them lines. I can't remember word for word, but yeah, it was out of the blue as well, because I wasn't, at that point I wasn't speaking to Luke for like a solid week, 2 weeks, and then I got home, I was playing some GTA, and all of a sudden I see my my little iPod or iPhone 6 buzz, and it's his brother. And yeah, that's when he said all that stuff. And then the next day, I went up to him and I sort of just acted like nothing happened. I just brought her under the bridge, and yeah, pretty much that's when everything started. It's when we were inseparable, pretty much.
Yeah, so the next year, Crocker starts high school, leaving me in primary school completely alone, right? Because he was my only friend at the time. I was forced to make new friends, which proved to be a little bit of a challenge at first, but you know, I started to make friends. I had a really good mate named Blake. We pretty much did everything together. I got in some beef with a few of the boys I was friends with, just didn't really work out. But the next year, so 2020, is where shit got real. I've just started high school and I'm hanging around with this motherfucker as well as a couple of other lads. But there was this one lad in particular who I guess we'd just say wasn't the greatest influence on us and the decisions that we'd make. But that didn't become clear until around June the 13th, the night before my birthday. I'm still 12 years old at this point. Crocker is sick as a fucking dog. So as a result, he's not able to come to my little birthday party, you know, the shindig that I was having by the bonfire. This guy, we'll just call him Rufus. I've invited Rufus around to my house, as well as these two girls, my girlfriend who ended up cheating on me at the time, and her friend, right? They're hanging out with us. They end up going home, you know, I say goodbye to them, which is when Rufus and I decide to go by the fire that my older brother and his friends are having and, you know, esh up for the first time. I didn't realize it at the time, but this was the start of a very chaotic and influential part of my life, which I would argue has shaped me into who I am today, but it also led me to influence this as well as many other of my friends who weren't necessarily looking to get into that stuff very early on. So I remember Crocker sort of had like the fear of missing out that night. He was really cut that I couldn't have him over, but you know, he was sick. From this point, I started, you know, doing more and more stupid shit just about every weekend. And by the time it got to the end of June, Crocker and I had both gotten really deep into, you know, like the going out when we weren't supposed to, leaving my house without parents knowing, all that sort of thing. And there was one night there where we went to a mate up the road's house, and Rufus, the little snitched all three of us, me, Crocker and himself, into his mum for having some beveraginos the previous weekend. And we were in some shit that night. What do you remember from that?
I remember you getting a call from your mum saying, all right, we've got to go home. And we were fucking halfway out to across town, like all the way across town.
Oh, we're talking like 30 kilometres. Like, mum calls us thinking we're up the road. Nah, we're 30 kilometres across town and she's telling me to get home right this minute. And I can't tell her that I'm not fucking near home. I'm nowhere near home, mum. It's gonna take me a solid minute to get home, you know what I'm saying? But
so, yeah, somehow he delayed it and he did a pretty fucking good job of it. And I remember sitting at the servo, like probably 20 k's away. And I was like, Luke, we need to fucking go. Your mum's asking like for us to be home now. And then he was like, bro, just chill. We'll be sweet. And then we get in the car and then we ended up getting back to the bloke down the road's house. And I think we jogged home or jogged home. And yeah, I was shitting myself. I was scared as fuck.
So to give a backstory for this night, we weren't just at our mate's house. We were there with the intentions of getting up to some mischief, right? And we were pretty much gonna stay up all night. But what had happened was Rufus, the little his mum had found his phone with the messages on him, sees that this guy is asking if, you know, what we're doing that night. And he just snitched us in completely, tells her everything. So I was obviously grounded for a little bit after this, but that didn't stop me from going out of my window and getting caught because my parents came into my room looking for a fucking charging cord. Not my proudest moment, but obviously we keep going down this path again and again. And one story which really sticks out, which I touched on in the other day's video, did a whole video on it, that I would like to hear Crocker's perspective on, was when we decided we're gonna eat together for the very first time. And shit just pretty much went downhill from there is all I'll say. So I've invited Crocker around to my house, gets there around 4:30 p.m. Doing typical things, playing my Xbox, you know, playing Fortnite. We set up our beds in the front lounge room. Once my parents go to bed, we decide that we're gonna eat our together. And this is pretty much where the whole night takes a turn for the worst, right? Around half an hour later, we're, you know, laughing, looking at our toes, saying how funny they look. And we receive a call from these two girls who we went to school with, who happened to have been up to their own mischief that night. They're telling us, you know, they want to have us over, they're feeling really good, they want to see us, they want to catch up. And we start thinking about it, right? We think, oh, maybe we can get there, you know, surely a taxi's not going to cost this much. I've got like $30 to my name at the time. And we end up coming to the conclusion that we're going to go to the suburb over and see them, which was our first mistake. So what do you remember from that whole experience?
I remember staring at your TV on your couch after we were looking at our toes, and I can just picture the most vibrant fucking colours on that TV screen. That's pretty much the one thing I remember a lot is about when we were going there. We got out and I looked at the road and it was just and anyways, we went inside the girl's house. Don't even know what we did, to be honest, can't remember. He has more memory of it. Then once we left, my phone was dead, Luke's phone was on like 2%, and we were trying to call a taxi. That was a big fuck around, because I don't even know how his phone didn't die. It was on like, probably 2% was probably a stretch, probably like 10%. And we was stuck for about half hour, 45 minutes trying to get a fucking taxi. That was because I was looking at the road then. That wasn't very fun, especially when we got in the taxi. Luke wasn't paying attention very much. He's not a very, he wasn't a very social...
I wasn't very observant.
Yeah, he wasn't very socially aware. And in that instance, and it was, I think it was in the back. Were you in the back with me?
Yeah, we're in the back together.
And he was behind the driver and I was on the passenger, so I had a clear view to him. And all of a sudden, I look up and he's like, "Ugh." I'm like, what the fuck? And then I text Luke and he's like, oh, fuck, just chill out, man. He's probably alright. He's fine.
He's probably just tired, you know. He's probably just had a big night. He's probably just had a big night driving cabs. So he says, bro, there's something wrong with this guy. Like, just look up, okay? So I look up and I'm sort of like turning my head around because I'm like behind him. I can hardly see him. Sure enough, look up and he's just doing these ones. And I say to Crocker, yeah, fuck. Maybe there is something up. Let's just try to get home. Once we get home, we get out safely. We run up the driveway, go to bed. We schmick. Don't worry. Right. Get home. I'm sure you guys know what happened. Won't go into detail. You heard the story the other day. But after this, gets towards the end of the year, and we've all decided we're going to hang out at Crocker's on a Friday night in December, I believe it was. We've invited Griggsy, Falla, Dallas, myself, and Crocker. So it's 5 people there on this particular night. Our plan was to have some beveraginos, pump an ash, kick back, talk shit, you know, same as usual. It's always the same fucking thing, always the same plans. But, you know, we get to Crocker's, hooking in, having a good time, all talking shit. But this is when we just get a little bit too confident for our own good, you know? Gets to probably 8 o'clock, it's still light outside.
These boys were saying, come on, Crocker, just one. So we go in the back room, we start socialising. 1 turns to 2, turns to 3, turns to 4, turns to fucking, nearly the whole mix is fucking gone. And then I'm like, by this time we've already started as well, so we were off. And we were blasting music, just yelling, being obnoxious and not thinking straight, obviously. And my mum comes out, knocks on the cabin door, and then she's like, what have you been doing? Take your glasses off. I had these speed glasses on. I was like, oh, nothing, eh? Nothing. haven't been doing much.
And then she said, come with me, Jake.
Yeah, she was like, take your glasses off, Jake. And I was like, yeah, okay. I take my glasses off. I'm like, looking at her like, oh, yeah. Like, and then she was like, come inside, please. And she just said to me, do you think I'm fucking stupid? She said this to me, word for word. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't know what you're doing? I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. And I promise you, I'll go back in there. I'll grab what we got, what we had, and then I'll give it to you.
But the caveat to that is he wasn't completely honest with her. He said, oh, fella bought a chuff. And she says, bring it to me, right? He comes back in. We're all just like stressed out, you know. We turned the lights off and stuff when we heard the knock at the door. Some of the boys were pretending to be asleep in the bed. And he comes back in. It's funny to look back on now, but this made my heart sink at the time. Comes back in, we're caught. What do you mean we're caught? Like, this is what we're saying to him. And he goes, Mum knows. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean Mum knows? How can she possibly know, bro? And he goes, she could smell it. And so...
That's such a good representation of what I said too. Like, it's spot on.
So we come up with this whole elaborate story that fella bought a chuff, but it's not here anymore because when he heard her at the door, he flushed it, da-da-da-da-da. So the next day we wake up very disappointed. We'd gone to bed quite early that night because we were just fucking, you know, we were wrecked. We were super unhappy with the result of what had just happened. Excuse me. And, you know, wake up the next morning, we've constructed this absolutely fucking devious plan. We're gonna blame it all on fella who agreed to it. We're gonna load him up with all of the, let's just say, and he's gonna leg it out the yard and pretend that we're chasing him, right? And he's gonna take the whole blame. Because out of everyone there, Crocker's mum didn't know fella's mum. Didn't have her contact or anything.
Didn't know where he lived or anything.
So fella had to be the one to do it. Anyhow, we load up fella. We spend the next 20 minutes trying to convince him. He's just so scared because it was on the larger sort of side. So he's spending the next 20 minutes just mustering up the courage, poking his head out the door. Are you sure she's not going to chase me? Will she call the cops? Da-da-da-da-da. And Crocker's like, no, bro, just go. Like, go. You've got to go now. And we're all just like, fella, hurry up. Hurry up. You're fucking around, bro. Right? So fella legs it. And obviously because he was not the fastest chap, you know, there's no Usain Bolt on them legs. He runs and we pretend to chase after him. We go, fella, no. We walk inside and say to Crocker's mum, oh, fella's just run off. You know, you can't talk to his mum. It sucks. Long story short, we got off pretty easy that night. Crocker, I don't know how much trouble you got in, but my mum, you know, we just told her it was a chuff, it was da-da-da-da-da, you know. If you want to watch the story, you can watch it, video on the screen. But pretty much got let off super easy. Not grounded at all, no trouble whatsoever. But as a result, Crocker was no longer allowed to hang out with fella. Wasn't allowed over at his house, couldn't hang out. He couldn't even go to the gym with him or anything like that, right? So this is when we start sneaking around, you know, we start doing the Eshens at fellas all the time, but in order for Crocker to come to fellas and have a good night with us, had to say he was staying at mine without our parents communicating. We sort of did a lot of sneaking around from this point, yeah?
Yeah, it was a whole setup plan from the beginning. When I was gonna stay at fellas, we made sure that our mums wouldn't come in contact with each other at all throughout the day. And yeah, pretty much, we got away scot-free. I've actually told my mum about this not long ago and she was like, are you fucking serious? and I was like, yeah, I'm not proud of it, but I did that. And yeah, she wasn't too happy with me. Not my proudest moment either, but yeah, it happened. It was very, yeah, we had a lot of, well, I can't remember them, but Luke probably can. All the nights we spent at fellas.
Yeah, well, unfortunately not many photos and videos to pop up on the screen for you guys. Lost that up on my old Snapchat account, unfortunately. But this is sort of where the story really ramps up. This is where Josh comes into the picture. So many of you will know from now my most viral video, big love to all you guys for that, that Josh wasn't our friend in 2020. We'd had a lot of beef with him before, but we'd become friends with him, super close friends with him in 2021. Crocker, myself and Josh by around June of 2021, we're doing everything together. Stay at each other's houses. When there was an option to go to someone's house, we wouldn't go unless it was myself, Crocker and Josh there, as well as the other person. So, you know, we'd go to Dallas's house. There'd be a few other people there, but it was always Crocker, Josh and myself. So we were tight knit together. But before I get to any of the crazy Josh stories, I want to tell you one that is off its fucking head back in March of 2021 on a night out with myself, Crocker and Dallas. As many of you will know, Dallas became a little bit of a head towards the end of year 8. And, you know, he was starting to get into it by this point. So, we've invited Dallas around to Crocker's as well as myself to spend the night, eat a few, go to the gym, roam the neighborhood, just be overall derelicts like we normally would. But this was Dallas's very first time doing this with us, or at all for that matter. So, gets to Crocker's house, and I believe around 8:30, 9 o'clock, excuse me, we decide we're going to eat our dinner, go to the gym, you know, pre-workout meal, you could say. But we don't eat them at Crocker's house. We say, nah, just let's leave it for the gym. Walk up to the gym, and we are crossing the road. And as we're crossing the road, this car pulls up. 2 undercover police officers, they wind down the window. They say to us, what's on for tonight, boys? You know, they're sort of, I guess they're interrogating us very lightly. And we just say, oh, you know, we're going to the gym, we're just going to train. Little did they know what we were actually about to do. So, speak to them for a bit. Everything was good. They just, you know, let us go to the gym, obviously. Get into the gym bathroom, and no less than 2 minutes after talking to these 2 police officers, we have our pre-workout meal that I mentioned. We start training, but around half an hour later, we're too fucking G'd up for training, right? We want to go. We want to go do something that isn't training. We feel like doing more than pumping weights, and that we did. So, we leave, we go to the park nearby, and we get some photos on the seesaw. By this point, dinner plates are in full effect, and we're just ready to roam the neighborhood. But we're not allowed out. The rule was we had to go to the gym, get straight back home. No fucking around, Jake, right? So we get back home, and I remember Crocker saying, boys, it's gonna be all good to like go inside and just speak to mum and be like completely normal. We're like, yeah, bro, no, it's all good. So we all walk inside like this.
Yeah, we were pretty tired.
And we get into the room that I would stay in at Crocker's, which was like his sister's old room, so it was like converted into my room because I'd stay there so much. And I remember we were all just sitting on the bed, just like, oh, I fucking love you. Oh, you're my best mate, this and that. We're just yapping and yapping and yapping. And we decide, once Crocker's mum goes to bed because she had work very early in the morning, we're gonna leave out the window and roam the neighborhood, son. So, gets to about, I wanna say 10:30, 11?
Yeah.
And leave out the window. Now, we're roaming the neighborhood, doing some pretty stupid shit. I won't talk about it on here, but
We can't talk about it anywhere.
we made some fucking stupid decisions on this particular night.
Yeah.
But gets to around 12:30, 1 a.m. Dinner plate still in full effect. And by this point, we decide, oh, we want to pump an esh, you know? So we decide we're going to do that. We get back to Crocker's house. Oh, bruh, oh, it's not working anymore. You know? It wasn't working. So we think, fuck, what are we going to do? Oh, I know what we're going to do. We're going to leave back out the window and go and look for one on someone's front doorstep.
Forgot about that.
And that we did. We roamed the neighborhood for like 20 minutes. I eventually find what I'm looking for. I run up, grab it, leg it, go back to Crocker's house, and we spend the rest of the night sitting out the front of Crocker's, so fucking red hot. I don't know how, out of all the times to get caught, we didn't get caught on this particular occasion.
We're doing it on my veranda.
Right on the front, like right where your mum's room.
Yeah, so my house is like mum's room, guest bedroom, veranda. We were doing it right there.
And
We're
his
on the
mum's
front.
room was right here.
Yeah.
So we spend the rest of the night doing that. As I said, a lot of details that I can't go into here.
Ever, unfortunately, ever.
From this point, myself, Crocker, Josh and Dallas, We'd pretty much do everything together. You know, we'd go to Josh's house because there was just so much going on all the time. We always just had something to do every weekend. There might be a few of the other boys there, but those were like the main ones we'd kick it with. Fast forward to around, I want to say March of 2022. And I've gotten so close with my girlfriend who I've been with this entire time. Those of you who don't know, most of you will. I started talking to this girl at the start of 2021. And slowly but surely I began to distance myself from my mates, especially after that one particular moment in every man's life that just seems to draw him closer and closer to women. And by this point, Crocker was sort of fed up with me hanging out with my girlfriend all the time, not talking to him, having no one to hang out with at school. And I couldn't resonate with that because I had someone to hang out with. My girlfriend had now become my best friend because we weren't friends with Josh anymore. He'd said something that completely made us cut him off. And now Crocker had no one to hang out with at school. So we sort of distanced from each other. I mean, we go into the gym together, we talk here and there. He sometimes sits with my girlfriend when he can't find anyone else to hang out with, you know, myself and my girlfriend. And I would say by June, pretty much wouldn't talk to me. Like maybe here and there, wouldn't talk to me much at school, wouldn't hang out with me at all. Really, we were doing some stuff together on weekends. All we could really bond over was pumping an ash together on the weekend. That was it. If we weren't doing that, it was nothing. What was your sort of perspective on that? Because I didn't even realize it was happening at the time.
In my eyes, I sort of thought you were purposefully pushing me away. I didn't know that, like, you didn't realise. So in my mind, you were like, you knew what you were doing. And I sort of became resentful towards your ex as well, your girlfriend at the time. And it took me about a month or so to sort of get over that feeling and sort of realise that, all right, we're both growing up, like, he's got a missus. I'm more than capable to make new friends if I need to. But yeah, it got to a point where I was like, you know what, fuck it. He's gonna do him. He's gonna do what he wants to do. I shouldn't hold him back if he wants to go another way. And yeah, I feel like that's when me and Dallas started to
Fake name.
yeah, started to hang out a lot more. I used to go over to his and Ash, like, bro, Ash. And I started to do this like more and more, like pretty much every weekend, sometimes even weekdays, because, you know, Luke wasn't there. He was always with his missus, and I sort of, I wasn't angry at him at that point. I wasn't angry at her at that point either. I was sort of just, you know, I felt a bit betrayed. And that's what sort of veered me to say, like, you know what, he can do it, whatever he wants. You know, I'm not going to reach out anymore.
And I remember, looking back now, I can look in and say this is why that happened, and I know exactly the reason it happened at the time, but I didn't realise this. I was getting all of my sense of self-worth from what she thought of me and how she treated me. I'd had so much acne, I had such bad body dysmorphia because I've been going to the gym and I just didn't look at myself in a very positive light. So the only sense of self-worth that I would derive would be based off of how much she loved me, how good she treated me, how close I was to her, and the relationship that we had together. And I didn't feel at the time I could derive that from anything else because I was getting all of my dopamine, my sense of self-worth, from fake external sources. Pumping an ash on the weekend, getting up to mischief, doing stupid shit, putting people down, all very negative sources that weren't coming from within. So that emotional pull was very much towards her, and I didn't think that I could resonate with my mates anymore because they just didn't understand. I believe around July, I start having a lot of troubles with my girlfriend. We'd always fight here and there, you know, Crocker would hear us fight at school and stuff, he'd walk away. But by July, it got really, really bad. But Crocker had already moved schools, okay? So I felt I had to stay with this girl, had to stay with her. Because I'd have no one to hang out with, and I knew that. I had no friends at school, she was my only friend. Gets to August, and I finally just say, you know what? Stop being a just hang out by yourself every single day. this relationship isn't worth it. You're not a good person, neither is she. We both need to become better people. And that can only happen if I distance from her and cut her off. So obviously she wasn't happy, blew up in my face one day at school. She's scratching me. She wants all of her jewelry, wants to give me her jewelry back and wants all the items that she'd bought for my birthday back. And I just say no, like, she's crashing out in my face, like up in arms. And I end up walking away from her. And I remember the feeling at this time, bro, just thinking, fuck, I literally have no friends. I'd sit by myself on like this little chair upstairs where you weren't allowed at school, just to try and avoid people seeing me, right? And I think, fuck, I've got to get an apprenticeship, or I've got to do something to leave school. I can't be seen as the loser who's hanging out with himself. Because for years, I had saw myself as someone of superiority because I had all these boys that I'd hang around. And I guess you'd say I was somewhat popular amongst the sorts of people that would do that sort of shit, like Dallas, Josh, all them, Brody, da-da-da-da-da. But now I didn't have any of that. Wasn't friends with any of them anymore. We weren't doing fuck all together. They didn't want to hang out with me. Most of them had moved schools. So I start hanging out with Crocker a lot more on the weekends. He's coming around to my house, doing the usual. You've heard it a million times. And we start getting closer and closer from this point. But I no longer had someone there, my girlfriend, to derive my self-worth from. So like I mentioned earlier, I got deeper and deeper into vices, the negative vices, which I was, into earlier, just not so much. Commenting negative shit on people's posts, getting my sense of self-worth from that, tearing people down to lift myself up, punching cones every weekend, going out doing stupid shit, watching corn 4, 5, 6 times a day, and putting my own mates down. So as a result of this, Crocker distanced, right? Friends with Josh again by this point. Talking to Josh, he distances from me and Crocker. No, Crocker distances from me and Josh, sorry. And in this time period, Crocker's, trying to get on self-improvement, trying to make himself better. He'd been getting into Muay Thai, watching Hamza. And I want to hear your perspective on this, because I have no idea what you did in that time, but I think it could have been a massive pivotal point if you hadn't have come back to us.
So once I moved schools, I started to indulge in a lot more bad vices, and that means, like, for example, I used to ash like every day, even if it was by myself, just like Luke did. And yeah, corn, everything like that. And then I just sort of got sick of it, and I searched up, fuck this, and searching up self-improvement. I want to get better. Now that's when Hamza popped up. So every morning, this was my routine. It's etched into my brain. So I'd wake up, cold shower, breakfast, meditate, journal, gratitude journal. And then that's when I would go out of the house for half hour.
And watch Cornhub on the back grass, like just sit in the backyard.
Yeah, bro. That was just a part, like sometimes in the middle of the night when I just felt a bit that's when I'd do it. I'd sneak out my window. But nah, that's when fucking everything started to look up. I remember telling Mum, I don't remember being so happy. This was whilst I wasn't speaking to them at all, and I was completely clean off everything, and I was improving in Muay Thai a lot at this point. Yeah, I think I was hyping myself up a little bit there to the boys when I started speaking to them again. But then I remember the way we got back into contact is Luke reached out to me, I'm pretty sure. Was that correct?
Yeah. So end of September, we'd just been ashing up at Josh's house, and you, for whatever reason, just decided you're not going to talk to us anymore. And gets to October the same year. I'm going through the whole withdrawal process, feeling like absolute shit. I decided to reach out to Crocker, tell him I'm on a new leaf, I've gotten completely clean. But I was lying to myself at the time, right? Start talking to him again. We went to the gym one day and did like some boxing lessons, Muay Thai lessons together. This is when we start hanging out together again and start ashing up every single weekend. All right, I don't make it past the 2-week mark. I was too weak at the time. Get back into it. I'm doing it every single day. Now Crocker's doing it every single day as a result. I remember it got to the point where I was wagging school multiple days a week because Crocker would have so many days off, walk to his house, maybe catch an Uber to his house, spend the whole day just eshing up, playing Minecraft together, two-player Minecraft, okay? And gets towards the end of the year, you know, we're all speaking to each other. I go away to another town where Josh lives, spend the whole week before Christmas with him. But shit gets real on the 17th of February 2023. We've gone into a new year, we've set all these big goals. Me and my boys, you know, Josh and Crocker, we're closer than ever, all setting up dropshipping stores, ready to fucking kick off our careers. But God had other plans for us because on this particular night, everything changed for us. At the time, we thought for the worse, but for the better, now looking back. As many of you will know, get into our whole court case because of the decisions we made that night. Absolutely gacking, right? But we're not allowed to speak to each other after we're let out on bail. And this gave us so much fucking time to work on ourselves and make ourselves better, do something actually worth mentioning in our lives. I get a job in June, start grinding, you know, and whilst all this is happening, Crocker's grinding away at his own thing. He's got a mechanic apprenticeship. But it gets to around July. And I'm working on a new song. I think it fucking slaps. I think, you know who would sound good on this? Someone I've never heard rap before, who I haven't spoken to in a long time. I'm not saying names. I'm not saying who it was, but pretty much we end up making a rap together, you know, non-disclosure agreement, and we put it on SoundCloud. It was called Living Indecisive. So low-key in contact with this particular person for the next couple of months, not really talking too much, but
being very careful.
Very inconspicuous. Anyhow, long story short, 10th of April 2024, our whole court case gets resolved and we're allowed to speak to each other again. I go home, everyone else goes home. Crocker comes to mine that afternoon and we do some Muay Thai together. It's just good to see each other. We haven't spoken in so long, like not properly at least. We haven't had a legal interaction in such a long time. We don't really talk much after this though, you know? We both got jobs, we're both doing our own thing. I've been working for nearly a year by this point. But no less than 2 weeks later, Crocker gets a job at the same place as me and my two brothers. So now all four of us are working there, as if I didn't already have enough headache.
Fuck, that was fun.
I end up quitting in June, had my last day on my birthday. Crocker left a short time after. But through all these highs and lows, right? I had the whole court case, all the friends we went through. Through the years, there were so many valuable lessons that we're able to take away from these situations. And it's not until we sit down, you sit down and think, you actually think, oh yeah, I can take that away from this. And the thing I want to send out to any young man or woman watching this is that everything you are going through right now is happening for you and not to you, okay? It is happening so that you can become the person that you want to be, because without these experiences, you're nothing. If I had the mindset I had now, I wouldn't have made those mistakes. But if I didn't make those mistakes, then I wouldn't have the mindset that I have now.
It's a fucking bar.
Okay? Everything you go through on a daily basis, no matter how fucking tough it is happening for you. Life is tough, man, it is. And by no means am I saying I've had a tough life. I've had it much easier than most people. There's always someone who has it much, much harder than you. And just going through all these experiences with Crocker, having someone there by my side through it all, has put that into perspective for me. You need to keep a tight circle. You need to keep people around you who lift you up, all right? Through all the tough times, we always at least had one positive thing to say. I remember as soon as we found out we were potentially going to jail back in 2023, we said, you know what? This could work out. It could. You know, we had high hopes.
Yeah, just pick your friends wisely, man. Like, the time that you'll lose fucking around and doing stupid shit's just not worth it. Like, you could be doing something so much more positive and meaningful for your life, and it could it can even impact you, your family in a positive way, which I think you'd like that more instead of ruining yourself and watching and making the people you love watch you go down the drain.
Yeah, because the thing with that court case was it didn't only impact our lives, it impacted everyone around us.
Yeah.
We were getting knocks on the door multiple days a week, multiple nights a week, 2, 3, 4 a.m. when everyone had work in the morning. So it didn't just affect us.
Yeah, that
and
sucks.
all the decisions that you make now and to the end of time will not just have an impact on you, but those who love you. So you're doing a disjustice to yourself by not making the right decisions. You need to make your family proud. Okay, you were put here for a purpose. You're not just put here to fucking slack off. I hear all these people say, oh, it's about balance. But you're not even living up to the 20% of your potential, all right? Everyone says it's about balance, and those people, notice how they never have the life you want, all right? Notice how you say you want this and that, you got all these big ambitions. But the people who actually have achieved the things that you want to achieve, they don't do any of the shit that you do. So how the fuck are you going to achieve it? That's the question you need to ask yourself.
It's a fucking bar. Those were a few bars in there, boys. Hope you listen to that shit. That was pretty mint.
The main takeaway here, choose your friends wisely, choose your enemies even more wisely. Value diamonds over bronze, because I know through all the years, I would rather have 1 diamond than 10 pieces of bronze. Love you, my G. Oh, it wouldn't be a Luke Vite the video if I didn't say stay grinding, my G.
Smash the subscribe button!